You are about to learn one of the biggest secrets in the history of the world. It's a secret that has huge effects for everyone who lives on this planet. Most people can feel deep down that something isn't quite right with the world economy, but few know what it is. Gone are the days where a family can survive on just one paycheck. Every day it seems things are more and more out of control, yet only 1 in a million understand why. You are about to discover the system that is ultimately responsible for most of the inequality in our world today. The powers that be do not want you to know about this, as this system is what has kept them at the top of the financial food chain for the last 100 years. Learning this will change your life because it'll change the choices that you make. If enough people learn it, it'll change the world because it'll change the system. For this is the biggest hidden secret of money. Never in human history have so many been plundered by so few, and it's all accomplished through this, the biggest scam in the history of mankind.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bentuk uang yang kini beredar di masyarakat terdiri dari bentuk kertas dan logam. Namun karena mata uang logam ini sulit dibawa dalam jumlah besar, fungsi logam ini akhirnya digantikan pula dengan kertas. Pada akhir periode dinasti Tang, pedagang-pedagang Cina menyimpan harta yang dimiliki. Sebagai gantinya, mereka menerima catatan jumlah kekayaan yang mereka sebut dengan hekuan. Hekuan inilah yang kemudian berkembang menjadi uang kertas dari masa ke masa. Produksi uang kertas mereka sangatlah banyak, hingga pada akhirnya nilai uang menurun sangat drastis dan mendorong inflasi yang sangat tinggi. Akibatnya, Cina pun tidak menggunakan uang kertas lagi pada tahun 1455. Melihat fakta ini, pada dasarnya masyarakat Cina terdahulu yang sebenarnya telah mulai untuk menggunakan uang kertas selama 5 abad sebelum bangsa Eropa mengadaptasinya di abad ke-17.
Winston Churchill once said that the further you look into the past, the further that you can see into the future.
Di negara Eropa saat awal sebelum adanya sistem perbankan, benda-benda yang dijaminkan seperti emas dan perak berada di tukang pandai besi yang piawai dalam menyetak emas batangan. Orang yang memiliki cek atau uang kertas dari pandai emas ini bisa mengambil logam mulia ini di tukang pandai yang sesuai yang tertera di kertas yang ia bawa. Banyak orang Yahudi Eropa yang menjadi penjual jasa penyimpanan emas yang lebih dikenal dengan istilah goldsmith. Untuk setiap emas yang disimpan, goldsmith mengeluarkan secari kertas atau sertifikat yang berisi keterangan tentang kepemilikan sejumlah emas tertentu pada goldsmith. Setiap saat bila pemilik emas ingin mengambil simpanannya, ia tinggal menunjukkan sertifikat tersebut. Akhirnya masyarakat mulai menerima sertifikat tersebut sebagai alat tukar menukar barang dan jasa. Pada saat inilah sertifikat tersebut menjadi uang kertas dan ini merupakan cikal bakal uang modern saat ini.
Nah, kemudian muncullah orang-orang pandai emas yang sekarang menjadi bankir-bankir itu. Mereka bilang, nggak aman pegang-pegang ini emas, berat nanti dicuri jatuh. Titipkan pada saya. Nah, dititipkanlah pada pandai emas itu. Mereka mengeluarkan kwitansi ini. 1 dinar emas atau 1 golden emas.
Seiring berjalannya waktu, goldsmith mulai menjadi rentenir dengan meminjamkan sebagian emas milik nasabahnya kepada debitor yang membutuhkan. Goldsmith mendapatkan keuntungan berupa bunga. Lambat laun, goldsmith ini mulai meminjamkan uang dalam bentuk kertas. Dengan hanya bermodal beberapa lembar kertas, ia mendapatkan sejumlah besar emas. Maka ia pun mengeluarkan uang kertas sebanyak-banyaknya untuk mendapatkan keuntungan sebanyak mungkin.
Discovered how to turn worthless paper into gold. Thus was invented the ultimate machine to steal real money and enslave all the nations on earth.
If you look at what's really going on, it's a con game. And so there's confidence. Well, the Federal Reserve is very forthright about what they're doing. If you read their websites, they'll tell you it's a confidence game. They tell you that there's no intrinsic value in their money. They'll tell you that they print it backed by absolutely nothing. They actually display all these facts. But if you tell somebody in the public that this stuff is created out of thin air, there's no backing whatsoever, it's absolutely worthless, it's about as valuable as monopoly money, they'll look at you like you're nuts.
And precious metals and paper currency was cracking.
This is a 1966 50-cent piece. It was the last coin in regular circulation in Australia to contain silver. It contains 80% silver. So in 1966, this was 50 cents. Nowadays, it's $8 roughly in silver alone.
By 1966, foreign nations had had enough of the U.S. collecting gold and printing cash. And they had more value in dollars than the U.S. had bullion in its vaults. They demanded gold in return for their paper dollars. Arguments about the value of the dollar versus their currency ensued. In 1971, President Nixon settled the matter. He severed United States currency from the gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Never again could anyone legally demand U.S. government gold in exchange for paper dollars. For better or worse, the dollar was now backed solely by the full faith and credit of the United States government. The wealthiest nation the world had ever known would bet its future on a single word: trust. If you trust your money just as it is, we have a little story to share.
Tanggal 23 Agustus 65, kemarahan Soekarno terhadap neokolonialisme dan imperialisme itu semua memuncak. Kita tidak lagi hanya membatalkan KMB, tapi kemudian Soekarno menerbitkan Undang-Undang Nomor 16 tahun 65, tanggal 23 Agustus 65. Isinya apa? Mengakhiri segala bentuk keterlibatan perusahaan asing di Indonesia.
Western intervention had backfired. Having stood up to a superpower, President Sukarno's grip on his country tightens, and he becomes emboldened on the international stage. Sukarno uses the United Nations to protest about Western intervention in his region.
I hate imperialism. I detest colonialism, and I fear the consequences of their last bitter struggle for life. We are determined that our nations and the world as a whole shall not be the plaything of one small corner of the world.
Pertanyaannya, Nekolim terima apa tidak? Saya tadinya susah juga ya, tapi saya tertarik dengan tanggal. Bahwa undang-undang itu keluar tanggal 23 Agustus 65. Ya, lalu ada peristiwa besar terjadi 30 September. Ya, hanya dalam tempo 5 minggu. Ada hubungan nggak antara Undang-Undang Nomor 1665 dengan stop? Saya nggak mau cepet-cepet menafsirkan, ya. Saya bilang ini agak sensitif. Lalu apa yang saya lakukan? Yang saya lakukan oke lah, ya. Mungkin ada hubungan, mungkin tidak ada hubungan. Oke? Lalu yang saya ingin cari bukti apa yang terjadi pasca stop. Ya. Lalu saya temukan bukti ya berupa beberapa undang-undang, yaitu Undang-Undang Nomor 7, Undang-Undang Nomor 8, Undang-Undang Nomor 9. Isinya apa? Undang-Undang Nomor 7 sepakat mengangsur kembali hutang-hutang Hindia Belanda. Ini November 66. Undang-Undang Nomor 8 mendaftar menjadi anggota ASEAN Development Bank. Undang-Undang Nomor 9 mendaftar kembali menjadi anggota IMF dan clear, saya bilang. Oke? Jadi gestok itu adalah subversi yang kelima. Dan saya kemudian mempunyai tafsir sendiri mengenai gestok. Tafsir saya apa? Tafsir saya gestok itu adalah rekayasa korporasi-korporasi asing untuk menghabisi rezim.
Kita menyatakan merdeka, mereka bilang nggak bisa you merdeka begitu aja. Kalau you mau merdeka, jangan punya bank sentral sendiri. Bank sentral kita namanya BNI 46 yang dibuat oleh para pendiri negara Republik Indonesia. Mereka bilang, you nggak bisa, you mesti ambil bank saya. Karena saya punya hutang pada bank ini, dan you mesti ambil hutang itu, baru saya akui kemerdekaannya. Nah, disepakatilah pada tahun 49 melalui konferensi meja bundar. Jadi Indonesia merdeka itu hanya 3 tahun, Pak. 4 tahun lah, ya kan? Maka The Jefferson Bank berubah menjadi Bank Indonesia, uang Republik Indonesia dibubarkan, diganti dengan uang Bank Indonesia. Nah, itulah sejarah sekilas mengenai dari mana datangnya uang kertas.
Adalah pemimpin dengan segala kekurangan dan kelebihannya, dia komit terhadap Palestina. Dia ingin membuat mata uang alat tukar di Afrika itu emas. Dia kampanyekan ke seluruh Afrika. Dia ingin minyak Libya dibeli dengan emas.
Some are convinced intervention in Libya is all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold, a true sharing of the wealth.
It's one of these things that you have to plan almost in secret, because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were 2 conferences on this. One in 96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested. I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
I think our dollar policies, our monetary policies, our fiscal policies have absolutely created a nation of debtors. Not just personal debt, not just corporate debt, but government debt. I mean, you have to look at those all together as one big thing. What is the wealth of the nation? Well, the wealth of the nation is a gigantic hole of money that we owe to the rest of the world that is never going to be paid back.
If you borrow the very first dollar into existence, and that's the only dollar that exists on the planet, but you promise to pay it back plus another dollar's worth of interest, where do you get the second dollar to pay the interest? The answer is that you have to borrow that one into existence and promise to pay it back with interest as well. So now there are $2 in existence, but you owe 4, and so on and so on. The result is there's never enough currency to pay the debt. There is always more debt in the system than there is currency in existence to pay the debt. Therefore, the whole system is impossible. It is finite. It will come to an end.
During the second round of quantitative easing, global food prices went up 60%, and this created a humanitarian disaster for the 2 billion people on Earth who live on less than $2 a day. These people were hungry to start with, they became hungrier, and some of them started overthrowing their governments in North Africa and around the Middle East. So quantitative easing was the spark that ignited the Arab Spring. So that's it. When you create money, you get some sort of inflation. It just depends on where the inflation goes.
It's all going down, down, down. Peasants are reeling from a game of...
It's the advice that you generally get, and that is inflate the currency. They don't say debase the currency. They don't say devalue the currency. They don't say cheat the people who are saved. They say lower the interest rates. The real deception is when we distort the value of money, when we create money out of thin air. We have no savings, and yet there's so-called capital. So my question boils down to this: how in the world can we expect to solve the problems of inflation, that is, the increase in the supply of money, with more inflation?
Of course, it can't. The fractional reserve policy perpetrated by the Federal Reserve, which has spread in practice to the great majority of banks in the world, is, in fact, a system of modern slavery. Think about it. Money is created out of debt. And what do people do when they are in debt? They submit to employment to pay it off. But if money can only be created out of loans, how can society ever be debt-free? It can't. And that's the point.
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
True wealth is your time, but we trade away moments of our lives, hour by hour, day by day, and year by year, for numbers that somebody printed on pieces of paper or just typed into a computer. Now those numbers represent our blood, sweat, tears, labor, ideas, and talent. We are what gives the currency its value. But here comes the really cruel joke. We work hard so that we can save some of that currency, so that we can pay the tax collector in the United States, it's known as the IRS. They then turn it over to the Treasury so that the Treasury can pay the principal plus interest on that bond that the Federal Reserve bought with a check drawn on an account that has nothing in it.
Pada uang logam ada nilai bahan yang berperan dalam menjaga nilai tukar koin. Maka, pada uang kertas, nilai apa yang bisa membuat uang kertas ini tetap memiliki jaminan nilai tukar? Sedangkan kita saat ini tahu bahwa uang tak lagi di backup dengan emas.
Jadi ini yang disebut sebagai pengelabuan, ya. Nah, karena itu kita mesti memahami. Jadi ini sebetulnya apa bedanya dengan kertas tisu ini? Kecuali gambarnya. Jadi yang disebut uang kertas itu adalah numerologi, nomor-nomor. Ini ilmu sihir sepenuhnya, ya. Nah, tapi kita dibuat percaya bahwa ini punya nilai. Buktinya apa? Buktinya bisa dipakai buat jual beli. Kalau saya belikan ayam, maka ternyata boleh ditukar dengan ayam. Tetapi yang tidak kita sadari adalah ketika ini terus berputar-berputar, 10 tahun yang lalu ini dapat 10 ekor ayam. Hari ini tinggal dapat 3 ekor ayam. Lah yang 7 ekor ayam kemana? Ya kan? Nah, jadi uang kertas tidak mungkin bisa disimpan. Gitu. Karena itu kalau dulu waktu Indonesia merdeka, uang paling besar itu hanya 600 rupiah. Tidak ada uang 1000. Karena uang 1000 pada waktu itu sangat besar. Harga emas 1 gram hanya 2 rupiah. Jadi kalau ada orang punya uang 1000, berarti dia punya setengah kilogram emas. Hari ini 1 gram emas harus dibayar dengan 500.000 rupiah. Jadi 66 tahun Indonesia merdeka hanya membuat kita 250.000 kali lebih miskin akibat dari sistem uang kertas ini. Kalau dengan emas dan perak, 1 dirham 3 gram perak. Kalau Anda menghendaki 2 dirham, harus ada 6 gram perak. 10 dirham jadi 30 gram perak. Mengedarkan rupiah berarti menambah kemiskinan. Menambah dan mengedarkan dinar dan dirham berarti menambah dan mengedarkan kekayaan.
The reason that gold and silver are the optimum form of money is because of their properties. It's an easy medium of exchange because gold and silver store a large amount of value in a very small area. It's a unit of account. Pure gold has the same value all over the planet. So an ounce of gold buys the same amount here in Egypt as it would in China or in the United States. It's durable. The same gold that Egyptians were using in trade 5,000 years ago is still here with us today. It does not corrode. It's divisible. You can make change with it. It's very portable. You could use something like oil as money. It's just that you can't carry around a barrel of oil on your back. It's fungible. Pure gold is the same wherever it is on Earth. Pure silver is the same wherever it is on Earth. It's limited in quantity. That's the reason that it maintains its purchasing power. Governments cannot print it. Over the last 5,000 years, only gold and silver have maintained their purchasing power. There have been thousands upon thousands of fiat currencies that are unbacked by gold or silver, and they have all gone to zero. It's a 100% failure rate.
Namun berbeda dengan koin emas, Seandainya mata uang emas tidak digunakan dalam perdagangan, koin emas sendiri bisa dilebur oleh pemiliknya untuk dijadikan perhiasan. Dengan demikian, nilai bahan emas tetap memiliki nilai dan manfaat.
Is there an example throughout history of a fiat currency, a piece of paper that's unbacked by anything, surviving?
Short answer, no. Long answer, no.
But the gold coin and the silver coin, all through human history, has successfully functioned as money, storing value.
Nah, ketika ada kebebasan memilih, semua orang ternyata memilih yang terbaik adalah emas dan perak.
Using coins also meant that an authority now controlled the supply of your currency. Money and political power were inextricably linked, centralized. Minting coins in a steady and predictable manner allowed economic growth and stability.
As I do is just a way to get the audience's attention is I have a slide, and there are three pictures on the slide. One is a pile of monopoly money. The other one is a pile of Federal Reserve notes, what Americans would call paper money. The other one is a solid gold American Eagle 1 ounce coin. And the title of the slide is which of these is not like the other. And if you know the show Sesame Street, or you have children who watch it, it's one of the favorite vignettes in Sesame Street. And what it really is a kind of IQ test for 5-year-olds. They're supposed to look at the three things and look at characteristics and find the one that's not like the other. Well, I've shown this slide to groups of Ivy League University professors, and I've also shown it to children, kind of 5 years old, my nieces and nephews and so forth. And when the professors look at it, they say, well, clearly the dollars are not like the others, because gold has no role as money, and monopoly money is junk, and the American dollar is a store of value, so that's not like the other. But the children look at it and they say, well, the gold coin is not like the other, because the other two are just piles of paper, and the gold coin is clearly something different. So my question to the audience is, who's smarter, a 5-year-old or an Ivy League professor?
The next hidden secret is the difference between currency and money. Money must be a store of value and maintain its purchasing power over long periods of time. As we progress through this series, you'll learn that national currencies are really a tool used by the government and the financial sector to leech away your time and your freedom by stealing your purchasing power. So rather than storing your economic energy, currencies leak. Now compare that to the gold and silver the Egyptians were using. Like I started with, it still wasn't money because it wasn't interchangeable yet. But they were on the right track, as gold and silver have proven over thousands of years to be the ultimate store of value. Gold is only formed when a star explodes, a supernova, and it stays around forever. This is one of the properties that make it the ultimate money.
You know, people are amazed that after 5,000 years, the pyramids are still here. But what I'm more amazed at is that the currency that the people that built this were using, that currency, that gold and silver that they were using in trade on a daily basis, is still around today.
In the past several years, I've spoken in many countries about the crisis that's coming, and a lot of people think that they're going to be okay in their country, that it's only going to happen to the United States or maybe the United States in Europe. But what they don't realize is that this is a global phenomenon. I got to show you something here. This is base currency in the United States. This is the number of paper dollars that exist, basically. It took 200 years to go from no dollars in existence to 825 billion. And then we had the bailouts, and then we had QE1, quantitative easing, 1, then QE2, and then we had QE3, and then QE4, and then soon we're going to have QE57 and QE382. And it isn't just here. This is what the Canadian currency supply looks like. This is Australia, South Africa, Russia. Now, this starts out in just the year 2001, and this is like 18 times more currency in existence in a little over a decade. Here's Singapore, same story. Look at that, since the crisis, just bam. India, China, every government on the planet is doing this insane deficit spending and expanding their currency supplies, doing bailouts, and history shows that there is no example of this turning out well.
Dampak krisis moneter global ini ke depan adalah menimbulkan chaos yang tidak tanggung-tanggung di seluruh negara, di seluruh bumi, seluruh dunia. Akan ribut kaum muslimin, hamba-hamba Allah yang kami muliakan. Negara-negara akan bertumbangan, uang-uang kertas tidak akan ada harganya, euro akan tercampakkan, US dollar itu seluruhnya tidak akan dihargai, yuan pun akan hancur lebur, uang-uang kertas muka bumi ini akan menjadi benda-benda yang hampir-hampir tidak berharga. Menurut para pakar ekonomi dunia, yang mampu selamat adalah negara-negara yang punya stok emas yang cukup. Nanti kalian semua akan kembali kepada dinar dan dirham, kata Rasulullah. Lalu kalian akan membiarkan uang-uang kertas kalian. Ini unik, Pak. Zaman Nabi mana ada uang kertas, betul tidak? Adanya ungkapan Nabi seperti ini sebuah isyarat di akhir zaman manusia pernah menggunakan uang bohongan ini. Bisa saya pinjam uangnya?
Satu botol air ini di Tanah Abang adalah satu botol air 600 ml. Kata Nabi ditakar 600 ml. Kita bawa ke Singapura, berapa nilainya? Sama, 600 ml air, betul nggak? Air dari Singapura dibawa ke sini sama, satu botol nilainya satu botol. Tapi sekarang orang-orang ini memaksakan, you nggak bisa bayar air dengan air, you mesti bayar dengan kertas. Maka di Tanah Abang satu botol air ini bisa kita bayar dengan ini Rp5.000, betul nggak? Begitu kita bawa Rp5.000 ke Singapura, bisa kita beli air sebotol gitu? Nggak bisa. Mereka bilang di sini harganya $5, 10 kali lipat atau 4 kali lipat atau sekurang-kurangnya mungkin 3-4 kali lipat. Lihat, kezaliman begitu kebebasan bertransaksi dihapus, kemudian dipaksakan secari kertas. Yang ini sebetulnya tidak ada nilainya, betul nggak? Ini kan cuma angka 5.000, 5.000. Apa arti angka 5.000? It doesn't mean anything. Orang Singapura 5.000, orang Amerika 5.000, 5.000. 5 nolnya 3. Tapi begitu kita kasih nama, ini 5.000 saya namanya Rp5.000. Jadi tiba-tiba berwujud sebotol air. Begitu namanya ganti, $5.000 Singapura. $5.000 Singapura berarti 5 juta rupiah. 50 juta rupiah. Dapat berapa botol? Satu truk lebih, 50 juta rupiah.
So now we've learned that your true wealth is your time and your freedom. Money is a trading tool that stores the economic energy that is your time and freedom, whereas currencies leak them away. Gold and silver are the ultimate money simply because of their properties. Fiat currencies are based solely on confidence and always return to their intrinsic value of zero. Governments don't like gold because it imposes restraint. Rising prices are a symptom of an expanding currency supply, and gold and silver always account for an expanding currency supply.
Now this all sounds pretty bad, but there is great hope. For you are the greatest threat to this false monetary system. This system relies on the public being ignorant of its workings. Please share this knowledge with everyone you know, because an informed public that fully understands the system can build a better future for generations to come. And now I leave you with this quote, widely attributed to a former director of the Bank of England. The modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Banking was conceived in inequity and born in sin. Bankers own the earth. Take it away from them, but leave them the power to create money and control credit, and with the flick of a pen, they will create enough money to buy it back again. But if you want to continue as the slaves of bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, let them continue to create money and to control credit.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends, You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.